Good evening, Anthony. Good evening, Graham.
Hello, Charles.
Sunday night.
Yeah, that's always Sunday night, Charles. When we do it, it's always Sunday night.
It's just getting well.
Except when it's Monday night.
Last week it was Monday night, and so welcome, Graham, and good evening. This is the voice of Charles Hutchinson, co-host, co-pilot, co-driver of two big egos in a small car, and my co-host Graham Chalmers.
I'm merely a passenger. Merely a passenger.
Merely a passenger, but not really, because you've been on BBC Six Music again this week, Graham. Perhaps you'd like to tell us all about that.
Well, yeah, I'm one of the two big egos, so my ego was obviously inflated by being given by the magnificent BBC Six Music radio station 6 minutes of just me talking about my biography of Chris Simpson and Magna Carta on the Craig Charles Afternoon Show, which was very nice of them to do so. And I tried to sell why Chris Simpson and Magna Carta deserve to be in the story of British music, and they've been completely written out for the last 50 years. And it was great that BBC Six Music let me spell out exactly why Chris Simpson and Magna Carta should be taken very seriously.
Were you able to make a case without challenge, or were you questioned as to your conviction that
there's always a slot in the Craig Charles Show on a Wednesday afternoon where he picks on someone who's done something or is doing something, and basically gets a recorded interview, and then it's edited into just you talking. So you're getting 6 minutes of non-stop Chalmers, which I think you'll agree is a great thing to get.
Unfiltered Chalmers. Well, look, Graham, I mean, we stretched to nearly 40 minutes, and that's not enough. So to condense you into 6...
Well, it is quite hard because when you've written a book about Chris Simpson and Magna Carta, and there's so much great music and so many great anecdotes and happenings and disasters, to boil that down, even when questioned by the BBC Six music producer, into 6 minutes is still pretty hard.
Absolutely. Now, Chris Simpson, I mean, your book will help with this, and of course, we chatted last week about...
Well, if it gets a publisher, it will. It needs to get published first, and it has not got a publisher yet.
Graham, well, let's put fingers crossed together for that, and even the fact that actually, Six Music has drawn attention to the book, maybe that will, spark further interest in the potential of doing that. The other thing that's happened, of course, is for the first time in 50 years, Burlington House in London, Chris Simpson. That's not a great sentence structure that I've put together, Graham. Put the flesh on my rather useless sentence I've created there.
Yeah, well, although Chris Simpson and Magna Carta remain famous abroad in Holland and Germany, Spain, Norway, bits of the Middle East, Canada, blah, 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 they've had no national interest in them whatsoever since the 1970s, when they were pretty big. And so when they were chosen to be part of this new exhibition, which runs till September, at Burlington House in Piccadilly, which also houses the Royal Academy of the Arts, this Magna Carta 1225 exhibition, which is about the 800th year, 800 years since King Henry III issued what is widely held to be the definitive version
of the
Magna Carta. When they were chosen to be in that, because they're called Magna Carta, and the band's name was named after the Magna Carta, when he was chosen for that's the first London recognition of Magna Carta, the band, for probably 50 years. And when I went down there with him and his wife Kathy and a couple of great friends to see the pre-launch day, to be there, and the people behind the exhibition, who were the Society of Antiquaries, and the Society of Antiquaries were founded in 1707, so it's a very erudite, very select group of people with specific...
Any of the originals still there, Graham?
Yeah. They've got a real niche interest. They're a bit like Phineas Fogg in Around the World in 80 Days. That's what it felt like when you were there. But they treated Chris like a VIP, which he probably hasn't had in Britain for a long time. And they made the general secretary of the Society of Antiquaries made the point of mentioning Magna Carta, the band, and Chris Simpson by name in her introduction speech to the great and good who were assembled in this magnificent wood-panelled room for the exhibition. So it was 50 years in coming, but he finally got a little bit of national attention again.
How are Magna Carta represented in this event at Burlington House?
This gets even better. Everything in an exhibition, which is a beautifully displayed, very interesting exhibition, but not a huge exhibition. Everything was real proper old stuff. Like most of the exhibits were from the 13th or 14th century. There's only two exhibits that weren't that old. One was a Magna Carta album cover
Yeah,
on vinyl, and
wonderful.
one was Jay-Z the rapper's 2015 album called Magna
Magna
Carta,
Carta.
but
Yeah,
he was represented by a CD. So for the first and only time, the British band Magna Carta were bigger than Jay-Z.
that's magnificent, and so it should be. Quite right too. So, did you say that Chris has been able to go down to this?
Yeah. It means his health isn't good, and you have to look after him to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was in fine form. He was chatting to the general secretary. I think her name was Natalie. I think maybe Natasha McEnroe, and I was chatting to her as well at the same time. And he was in fine form with all the anecdotes about playing his songs for David Bowie in 1970 and various other exploits, Princess Margaret, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton. All the
Yeah.
stories were coming out. And when Chris is on form, it's just like the old Chris of 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is running till September. This.
Yeah. It's well worth a visit.
Well, so Graham, that is good news that is happening, and that's lovely for Chris. And obviously, we wait with bated breath for the publication of your book. You've been beaten to the publication of a book by my brother Andrew's son Edward. He's had a book published on the history of art and a guide to columns and Roman columns, etc. Doing a project at Hob Green involving columns, and he couldn't find the kind of information that he wanted in order to be quite confident about how the columns were being constructed. And so he decided to do the research and ended up writing a book that's been picked up by 4 universities, including Yale in America. So what I'm saying, Graham, is there's clearly hope for you and your Chris Simpson book. So
if he's done a book about columns, is he a columnist?
I guess he is. Yes, I mean we're what are we? 5th columnist, aren't we?
Yeah.
Is that right? 5th.
No, maybe third or fourth. Maybe third or fourth.
Now you look, for a man who's been to a festival this weekend, you look very perky, Graham.
I'm a veteran festival goer. I can handle it.
You are. This is the Deershed Festival in North Yorkshire, and probably the finest festival of its kind. I'm not saying it's on the scale of Latitude, but it's of that kind of magnitude as to its span, its spectrum and its span. And this year, Graham, you've been there for how many of the days?
2 out of 3. I couldn't manage today, sadly, but today was a lot of literature, which I wish I'd be able to go to. But no, it's just that it's been going for 15 years and it's still independent and mainly family run. And it basically always has a very high quality lineup. Sometimes of acts that have been going for quite a long time, you recognise the name of, but quite a lot of time it's acts that are up and coming, have only made their name in the last 2-3 years. And it's right across the spectrum. Every style of music, it doesn't stick to one style of music. If you're good, if you've got some sort of reputation, and if you've been on BBC Six Music, which happens quite a lot, you will be in Deershed, and the quality's really high. And the weird thing about it is that it's a festival full of families, full of mums and dads, children running everywhere. There's always bubbles being blown, so there's always bubbles flying in your face. And at first you'd think this is way too civilized to be a rock and roll festival, but then the quality of the bands gets to you. And then on top of that, the sound's always good on all 4 stages. The bands always play well on all 4 stages, partly because the audience are there not only just to enjoy the music, but to enjoy having a relaxed time. So they're not easily impressed. The audience doesn't lap up the acts like rabid fans. You have to be good to get a good response. So all the acts play really well. And so as the day goes on, this happens every single year ago, you get more and more impressed by the whole festival. And then you notice that amongst all the kids and the families and all very middle class and all very civilized, it's quite quietly eccentric. People dress in weird ways, dress from head to toe in fake furs or head to toe in silver. There's lots of different bands' T-shirts from every year of rock history on different people. So it's quietly a bit of an eccentric festival for a posh festival. So Deershed, once again, despite the fact we're in really tough times for independent music festivals, it was absolutely magnificent. Really great festival.
So I'm going to run through some of the names, and you can comment on them. Wonder Horse, K Tempest, The Big Moon.
Potentially a great band, Wonder Horse. They're a proper
Mm.
old-fashioned, traditional, early Radiohead rock band. There's only two problems to them. They've got all this power, but the songs aren't good enough. And on top of the songs not being good enough, the band has lots of intensity, but not much charisma. And they also don't dress very well. They look worse on stage than if I was on stage.
That's not very encouraging, Graham.
Yeah, but they have the power and the potential to be a great, proper, old-fashioned British rock band like
Can they
Muse.
make the strides that Fontaine's DC have made? Can they do that kind
It
of?
depends. It depends if they want to. Fontaines DC are really determined to
Mm,
become a really big band,
mm.
so they consciously do things to up the ante. So if Wunderhorse want to do it, I suspect they would be able to do it. I think they've got the potential.
Yeah. So Kay Tempest was back, and
Well,
Kay's.
I didn't see her, but
Oh,
she
yeah.
is very
Him
impressive.
now
And
fully transformed, Graham, to him now.
I saw Anthony Schmerig,
Mm.
who's like a sort of like Manchester uh, K Tempest light. He's much more positive, much less troubled than K or Kai Tempest is. So
Mm.
consequently, he's become, since he became successful in the last year or so, he's gradually turning into a disco king. He's becoming more about going on stage, and he's becoming a good time sort of version of K or Kai Tempest,
Mm.
which a lot of people loved. He went down really well, but I thought it was a bit bland.
A BBO sound machine.
Fantastic. They've been going for quite a few years now, from London with some Nigerian roots, a
Mm.
band of multicultural band of great black musicians and a couple of white guys. And they do every form of like soul dance music going from the last 25, 30 years. There's like gospel, soul, rave, talking heads, funk, African, and they meld it together or weld it together with precision tightness, but also a deep groove with a really charismatic lead singer. And oh my good gosh, they went down so well because you could tell the crowd didn't really know who they were, and the crowd went bananas for them. We were all
I
dancing
mean,
and
that's a
hands in the
very
air.
typical Deershed signing, it seems to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They went down an absolute storm. They were the best live band I've seen on the main stage in the whole time, except for the Comets Coming, who were
Mm.
jaw-droppingly brilliant.
Who headlined one year, didn't they? Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
To a small crowd.
Absolutely. The Big Moon,
Didn't see them, but I know they're good.
Idlewild, who been around for some time.
Yeah. Pick a band I have seen. Pick a band I didn't see.
Jonas Policewoman.
Jonas Policewoman. I don't really like her. She's been going a long time now.
She
Done a lot
has.
of albums. She's highly rated without becoming hugely successful. And I didn't know her songs, and it was just a three-piece, her, a drummer, and a guitar player, and they were sensational.
Mm.
American musicians in general are better musicians live than British musicians. They're
Yeah.
really accomplished, and she was so good, and the band was so good that I thought, wow, I love this. And I
Mm.
didn't even know the song. So Jones, a Policeman, was very impressive.
Big Special,
No, didn't see that either.
Bodega.
Jump onto the Pill. I saw the Pill.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
They were the funniest band I've ever seen in my life. Two girls and a bloke from the
Yes.
Isle of Wight,
Yes.
like a younger, schoolgirl version of Wet Leg,
Yes.
all like pithy, witty, short and sharp, punky pop songs. And the lyrics and their on-stage antics and in-between song chats to the audience were hilarious. They were taking the mickey out of men. They were taking the mickey out of themselves. They were taking the mickey out of rock cliches and how rock bands behave on stage. And they were just end to end funny and entertaining. The only problem with them is that if you shut your eyes and just listen to the music, although the punk pop songs are all pretty good, I can't imagine them doing 10 albums from where they are right now.
No.
You know, the potential to do like loads of work from what the template they've got right now didn't seem to be there, but they were good.
That might apply to Divorce as well. That you'd think they might split up with a name like that.
You'll Divorce have some songs which are a bit country, other songs a bit Fleetwood Mac, who of course themselves were a bit country. And
Yeah.
it's all very melodic and middle of the road and quite impressive, but it never quite took off. And on top of that, although they sound a bit middle of the road, they made a speech about how fascism was growing all over the world, which was perfectly fine. I agreed. I thought they were right. Fascism is growing all over the world.
Yeah.
But it didn't really go with the songs. I mean, if they're going to be a bit political, they need the songs to be a bit more political.
Rich brackets Ard close brackets Dawson.
I saw him. I don't like his records very much. He's a sort of like a very sort of like wayward maverick, Newcastle folk influenced singer songwriter who's happy to chuck heavy metal right next to like traditional folk in the space of like 5 bars. So I thought I need to see a bit of him so I can see what I think when I see him in the flesh. And he was better in the flesh than on record because he is so fearlessly himself. He's so unafraid to, do what the hell he wants in a way that doesn't fit the usual schemes of writing a song that it was quite fascinating to watch. Whether I actually liked it is another matter, but it was certainly, he was definitely unique. You could see why he's got the critics on his side because just like Marky Smith was always Marky Smith, Richard Dawson is always Richard Dawson.
Yeah. Rachel and Becky Unthank.
No, I'm not a huge fan of. The thing about Magna Carta is the Magna Carta had some folk roots, but they ultimately aren't folk. Whereas Unthanks are more folky than Magna Carta, so I didn't see them anyway.
Jacob Allen, who's been getting a lot of attention.
When he was doing his more sort of like early Neil Young Heart of Gold acoustic numbers, they were quite lovely and I quite liked him. When he did his more sort of like downbeat, depressing, semi-mumbling numbers, I thought he was boring.
The Sick Man of Europe.
I didn't see that, but is that referring to Britain?
I imagine so.
Hamish Hawk was great. Hamish Hawk was very good.
Yeah, Hamish Hawk, who played, of course, played as an opening act at Richard Hawley's gig and was in fine form that night, going on stage really early at 5:30 of an evening. And,
same time at the Deershed as well,
5:30.
Right. He's a 5:30 man.
Absolutely. Mandrake Handshake.
No, I didn't see them.
Right, okay.
I saw Honesty from Leeds.
Honesty
were good.
Honesty, right, okay. Yes, they're on the...
They were sort of like, if the Cure's most recent album, Songs of a Lost World, was transferred into sort of like ambient dub dance version with a little bit of art school going on, that was Honesty. Very atmospheric. I tell you, it was very good. One of the big hits in the dock stage in the big tent was another Leeds band called Adult DVD.
Oh, right.
And Adult DVD are like a backstreet, dishevelled, scruffy version of LCD Sound System with a little bit of Yard Act chopped in. They're the sort of band that David Bowie would have picked to play in a disco in Berlin in 1978 if he'd run a disco in Berlin in 1978, which of course he didn't. But they'd be perfect for that because they're a bit arty, but they're really dancey and fun, and they rap a bit, but they don't take it too far. That it's all done in a sort of slightly, we don't care, we just know we're good, we're going to go for the groove attitude, and it went down really well.
Cowboy Hunters.
Yep.
Dilettante.
You call me a dilettante?
I would never call you that. Child of Prague.
No, good name. Well,
I'm not calling you ugly either, but they played.
Well, yeah. The thing is, Charles, there are a lot of bands playing. If you're going to go through the whole list of the whole program,
I'm really flicking through the list here. Do you get to see any of the comedy, or do you go and see any of the science?
No, you have to stay. You have to live there for 3 days and scurry around like a mad fly.
So do you stay the night, Graham? Do you actually pitch a tent?
No, drive every day. I haven't done a tent at a festival since 2012, when I think it was a mud bath, and I thought I'm not doing a tent again.
That's fair enough. I can understand that. So now, remind me, who actually programs the festival now? Because hasn't that changed?
Yeah, well, I bumped into Oliver Jones, the founder.
Yes.
Who's a great bloke who was on this podcast
he was on this
year and a half ago.
Podcast.
Yeah. and I think there's more outside influence going on now than used to be, but I don't actually know, so I'm not going to comment.
Mm.
But he always like it's such a hard, it's such a he starts the process of doing Deershed 2026 now. There is no break.
I remember
As
him
soon as
saying that. And I thought that was
you're already
remarkable.
doing the next
Yeah.
one as the first this one's finishing, so he does a brilliant job in putting on at all.
Mm.
And he always looks like he's a bit tired, which is unsurprising. So yeah, I think there is more
I think there's more
influence,
input,
but I
isn't there,
don't know
now, as I
in
understand
what
it.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. But they're doing well
But
to actually exist in the current climate.
that's true. When you see festivals that are closing, and and stores actually are sort of festivals even being called off quite close to when they're supposed to be happening. So it's a 15 years you say now, I think, isn't it? And it's
Yeah, yeah.
consistently you've consistently enjoyed it, and so thank you for that reflection on that. Now, Graham, have you seen the new Superman film?
The last Superman film I saw and enjoyed was probably the one with Christopher Reeves a long time ago.
Christopher
And
Reeve?
that's when I was
Yeah,
younger and I could
yeah.
watch that sort of thing. I can't really watch superhero films and Marvel and DC comic films. They don't really bore me, but I always feel it's like an insult to my intelligence.
Um, well, here's the headline from the Guardian review: Superman review. Is it a bust? Is it a pain? James Gunn's dim reboot is both. So I'd read a different review, and I'm sure it was in the Guardian, giving it 5 stars. So not Peter Bradshaw's review, but another review. So out
Mm,
of curiosity, I went to see it, and the
okay.
curiosity ended with
Mm,
arriving at the cinema, wanting to see why this film might have been interesting to see. I mean,
mm.
I know I am absolutely out of stride with DC and with Marvel,
Marvel.
and I just continued to find it an utterly vacuous experience.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because the last time that a superhero film was actually worth watching was when Christopher Nolan directed Batman for a bit.
Mm. I mean, the contrast with going to see the Ballad of Wallace Island, tiny
Mm,
scale English film, British film, beautifully written, obviously very straightforward, simple photography, lovely storytelling, very moving, very funny. I have no idea whether, when I was watching Superman, whether it was supposed to be funny or not. I couldn't work it out.
yeah, but
I had no
the thing
clue.
is, not
I
yeah.
don't know whether it was a pastiche,
You're allowed to enjoy big, spectacular
but I that's
Hollywood
boring. It
popcorn
becomes
movies with lots
boring.
of action. I years ago I loved that film Armageddon starring
Hmm.
Bruce Willis.
Hmm.
Which is completely over the top and all action and spectacular, and
Hmm.
it's scary. It wasn't a work of art. You're not going to write a book about Armageddon. So it's possible to make big action films and for it not to be boring or insult your intelligence and to be
Well,
entertaining. I just
I
don't find the superhero films entertaining. I just don't.
well, also, I mean, obviously, we're into the world now of CGI, AI, any other acronym that you can think of, and I,
ICI.
yeah, I find it. I don't want that trickery. It just isn't interesting enough. Just oh
Yeah.
gosh, look what they can do. So early on, there's this huge monster, and they start sort of firing things into its eyes. And I think, oh well, we've already got dinosaur movies. What is the point of this? And while the lead performance, the latest of the Superman actors, I'm not saying it was more like Stuperman than Superman, but I want the human story. We did eventually, of course, I'm aware, Krypton, I get that. And he does actually then make out why he's more of a human than people seem to realize he isn't. There's just one long speech in there in which he explains why he's as human as anybody, and it's because he has his moments of failure, he has his moments of doubt. And that was the only bit that I in any way connected with in the film, because it was the
Mm,
only moment which seemed to me to be more than just action, action, action. And
yeah.
spectacle, Graham, spectacle becomes
It's
boring
the
after a while. Spectacle without
it's the law of
context.
it's the law of diminishing returns. The more you do something, usually the more boring it gets. And the superhero films have literally been done to death. It's about time they stopped
So
because I think
why are they
Hollywood's
still doing
become
them?
because they're still making money. If they ever stop making money, they will stop being made. But the reason I don't like CGI is this: when you're in the cinema, it's about the suspension of disbelief. You have to sit there and give yourself to the movie.
Yes.
Now, with CGI, you can tell it's not real, so you never suspend your disbelief. So I just can't handle too much CGI in general. There are exceptions to the rule. There have been CGI films I've seen and thought were great because they used them in inventive, atmospheric ways with a good script. But in general, CGI is just thrown at a wall like paint to cover it.
It's called, in Peter Bradshaw's review, pointless, which is exactly how I felt. And to give the name to the actor, he's called David Corenswet, which strikes me as that could be a made up name. I mean, that's just extraordinary.
Excellent.
So, I mean,
I'll tell you what, I watched a film recently that I hadn't watched for a long time. Grosse Point Blank with John Cusack from 1996. And that's everything that the Superman film probably wasn't.
Okay, what is it then, Graham? What's it got that a Superman type of film has not?
Intelligence, good characters, great dialogue, great plot shifts, surprising twists, humor, and still quite exciting action scenes and suspense scenes. So it ticks every box you want from an entertaining film.
Whereas Superman, as I say, left me in a stupor, man. So that was not my exciting experience of the week, and it merely confirmed to me that my prejudice against these things, because that is what it's become, my stubborn refusal to watch these things, was absolutely backed up. And
but it's not prejudice, Charles. You're not forced to like something. I mean, you're allowed to have taste. And I have no prejudice any types of film. When I go to the cinema, I'm hoping the film will be good. And if I like it, I like it. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. I couldn't care less if it's done by Lars von Trier or the guys just in the Superman film. If it's a good film, it is a good film.
You want thrills, and you don't get them. The monotonous thrills are very boring. It is rather like watching an England cricket match highlights package where you just see the 4s and the 6s being hit and none of the context.
Well, yeah, but the 4s and the 6s are joyous, as you know better than I do. It's cricket, and I'm a Scotsman, so therefore, I don't know cricket.
They're joyous, Graham, for watching them live, and when you don't know it's going to happen.
Exactly, and also it's the amount of work involved to get to the point where you can hit a 4 or hit a 6.
Absolutely,
it makes it so good.
Absolutely. So I would like to think that the writer-director James Gunn, and frankly, I think he failed on both the writing front and the directing front. James Gunn, it was a misfire and a mishit for me.
They should get shot of Gunn.
It looks that way. So that's my thoughts on that. Now, for our last topic tonight, Graham, this is, of course, 2025 Bradford City of Culture year, and we just about began to discuss last week, and we'll come on to your reflections on this. I went to see the Railway Children, which, of course, was first done in York, done in 2008 and 2009, down at the National Railway Museum, in a tented structure in the freighted depot, and the great joy of having a real steam engine passing in front of you on stage was let alone how good the script writing by Kenny was.
Not too close to you, I hope.
Well, it didn't steam into me, if that's what you mean.
Okay. Fine.
So audiences sit either side, so it's what was known in theatre terms as traverse theatre, but let's call it Platform 1 and Platform 2. So 1970, Lionel Jeffries made his film version, and he moved the location famously from When the Children Leave London. In the book by E. Nesbitt, the story set in 1905, 1906, I think, they went to Kent, which really seemed to me not to be far enough from London. And Lionel Jeffries decided, no, let's set it in Yorkshire. And of course...
Good move.
And people love that film. Of course, it's famously the Jenny Agutter film, but it's also the wonderful Bernard Cribbin's performance as Mr. Perks, the station master. And so here was an opportunity that the Bradford City of Culture saw to reactivate Damien Cruden's production with Mike Kenny's script on the rail line in which Lionel Jeffries made the film. So this is the Keighley and Worth Valley railway line. And the joy of joys, for your ticket, you get on the train, you get on a steam train at Keighley, run by the Worth Valley. Worth Valley staff are there, so too are the volunteers that of course the City of Culture events have, guiding you onto the trains and helping you every way. And en route, you listen to a company, the Stand and Be Counted company, tapping into the theme of the piece, which is about tolerance and understanding and community. So that's worth listening to. That's a kind of soundtrack that applies as you travel to Oxenhood.
Isn't that reflected in the casting and how they use the characters?
You're
in the
right.
New
So
version?
the key. There's two key things that Mike Kenny's done, and it's hardly required any tweaks to his script at all from 2008. So what he now has is that the family starts. It's the Foreign Office. Works for the Foreign Office. The father. He starts. The backstory is that he is in India and he marries an Indian woman. They have children and they move to London. So what you straight away now have in the story is an Asian element to the story. And indeed, the mother in the story continues to have an Indian accent. The children speak in la-di-da posh tones like my good self, because obviously they've been brought up in London.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of, as it was put to me by Damien Cruden when I interviewed him, there's a kind of double otherness about them from India, but also from London when they come to Yorkshire. Now, Joy,
they're definitely not local. They're not local.
No, and of course it's how they rub up against Yorkshire, which is one of the which of course equally you have the joy of the bluntness of Yorkshire and the incongruity of it and the unfortunate sort of ability to put the foot in it and whatever, all of which is absolutely joyfully done still. But even though it was written as a children's story by E. Nesbitt, and children are absolutely welcome to go to the show, but it works wonderfully well for adults as well. And of course, the context is that Bradford, multicultural city, so absolutely tapping into that. Now, the other element of the multiculturalism, of course, if you will recall in the story, that there is a Russian refugee, Shapansky, who's a great Russian writer, and he's fled from Russia. Now, this is Mike Kenny's other little tweak that he's done, and it's very clever to have done it. It's a simple thing to have done. He is still Russian, but he's Ukrainian Russian, because obviously if you know someone from Russia, you're going to have no sympathy now at all because of the situation that's existing. So to call him Ukrainian Russian, you're tapping into the emotion of what's happening to Ukrainians. But also, I think, a reminder as well that Ukraine and Russia are interlinked countries and have been for a long time. So, again, a really judicious decision by Mike Kenny there. The script is as powerful and as funny and as moving as it ever was. It's utterly spectacular as well. What you have, yes, you delay the arrival of the steam train into this engine shed that the play is performed in till just before the interval. So again, holding back the kind of star of it. But what also happens is the sense of motion comes about because, and this was the case as well when it was at the National Railway Museum, is you have a series of wooden trolleys that are pushed by a couple of the members of staff. And the way that works is you can move that backwards, move it forward, you can move it to the centre, you can move it to one end, or you can move from one end to the other. It also means that as you're watching in a traverse structure, so sometimes the actors will be closer to you and sometimes they'll be further away, but it means that no one kind of misses out on seeing everything in a good way, but it also incredibly smooth flowing the way it's done. It has a lovely flow to the piece.
It sounds spectacularly good, Charles, but one thing I'd say is that this could never have happened if it had been Transpennine or South Western Railways.
Your point is correct, Graham. One could be making those points about railways that are being told to be nationalised. I think one puts all that side of it to on one side, the technicalities about railway failure or whatever. What is more important, it seems to me, is to see the connection between the past and the present over the importance of community, the importance of tolerance, the importance of being good with each other and bonding with each other and trying to find solutions in any difficult situations. And all that comes across very strongly in the story. And yes, it's set in the very earliest of the 20th century, but it applies as much now. When you watch it, of course, you're seeing the modern world. You're thinking of what's going on with the attitudes.
It also represents Bradford in the round in the way it's been done,
correct,
and the way the script's been handled.
Yes.
The only thing to me is, has it received any national publicity? Has it been reviewed?
It was reviewed it was reviewed in, I think, The Guardian reviewed it, and 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 the Nationals were invited on that press night, and I'm
Yeah.
sure they will have covered it. And I mean, it's this the whole thing with City of Culture is that yes, it's for the local community, but it's also for the travelling community. I mean, by which I don't mean the travelling Romany community. I mean the travelling from all over the country to see shows. And
Well,
that's
the
how it
point
should
of
be.
city culture is to promote the city that's in. It isn't just to like put on some nice shows. It's supposed to help rejuvenate places and to
Absolutely.
advertise that city to the rest of the world.
I think it. I mean, there are many other things taking place at this festival, but I think this is one of those ones that's got really wide appeal. It's running until September the 7th, and so plenty of chances to see it. And I would recommend it as a family day out, actually, to go to this.
No, it sounds great, and with the Turner Prize coming up in Bradford in December,
Mm.
it sounds like the city culture thing for Bradford's finally getting some national attention.
Well, we're going to have Ben Pugh from City of Culture on the podcast in August. We're going to be interviewing Ben. He's involved at the coalface of this festival, and I want to hear from. Why we're going to have Ben on is to hear how he feels it's going, sort of halfway through, as it were, more than halfway through now, actually. And he's been there for all like he was there on the press night, for example, of Railway Children. He was there on the very first night, etc. So to get a kind of inside track on how it's going and how he feels it's been received so far, it will be interesting to hear that. So he's going to be
In
on,
terms of
going to be on
city
in
culture,
August.
Bradford's quite an underdog because it's had tough times the last 30, 40 years. So interested to see what Ben thinks about whether it's actually achieved a lot for the city.
Yeah, and that's because I mean, I've not. I mean, I hold my hands up and say I've not. I've not been to a lot of it so far. I am intending to go to the Sound and Vision exhibition at the National Media Museum, which has now opened. So it's important to see that. And of course, you and I both went to see the exhibition at 1853 Gallery, of course.
Pictureville in Bradford has got the epic Yorkshire season with Phantom Thread, God's Own Country, and also Jack King's A Ceremony, which we loved at Edinburgh Film Festival last year.
Yes, it did. Yeah, so that's good that that's in there. Splendid. Well, our time is coming to an end. Graham, I'm going to wish you well for the week ahead. And you're looking in fine form, as I say, given you survived festival going, which is impressive.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic sub-production.